Hi friends, I am Dilip. I hope you are all doing good. So in this video we'll be discussing about the topic called as registration. We'll be discussing on three sections with regard to registration. Section 25, which deals with the procedure for taking registration. Section 26, which talks about deemed registration, and Section 27, which speaks about special provision which is applicable to a casual taxable person or a non-resident taxable person with regard to registration. Okay, so without wasting our time, let us straight away start with the discussion. Now, please note, this is not a summary revision which we normally do. This will be a detailed discussion. Now, Section 25 talks about procedure for registration. What is the procedure which a person should follow for taking registration under GST? Now, Section 25 subsection 1 says, Section 25 subsection 1 says, if you are a person who is liable for registration, a person can be liable for registration either under Section 22 or under Section 24. So if you are a person who is liable for registration, you will have to apply for the registration within 30 days of being liable. If you are a person who is liable for registration, you will have to apply for the registration within 30 days from the date when you are liable for registration. Now, Section 22 says a person will be liable for registration if his turnover is crossing the basic exemption limit for registration. It can be either 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs or 40 lakhs. So if your turnover cross that particular limit of registration, you will have to the limit of the basic limit for you to not get registered. If the turnover cross that limit, then you will have to take the registration under GST. Similarly, if you are into amalgamation, if there is any court order, etc., Section 22 is talking about all those things. And Section 24 gives the list of the people who are required to take registration under GST compulsorily. And Section 24 says who are required to take registration compulsorily, meaning whatever is specified under section, or whoever is specified under Section 24, they should take a registration under GST irrespective of whether their turnover is crossing or not crossing, irrespective of whether they are liable for registration under Section 22 or not. Section 24 gives the list of people who should take registration compulsorily, Okay, now what does Section 25 subsection 1 says? Section 25 subsection 1 is telling, if you are a person who is liable for registration, say for example, I started my business on 1st April 2020. I started my business on 1st April 2020 and my turnover in the state of, say, Karnataka, Bangalore. I started my business in the state of Karnataka, Bangalore, and on, say, 20th May, my turnover crossed 20 lakh rupees. On 20th of May, my turnover crossed 20 lakh rupees. Now, because my turnover has crossed the limit for under which if the turnover has crossed the limit which will make me liable for registration, I will have to now apply for registration. Now, what is this point telling? You will have to apply for registration within 30 days. Section 25. So as per Section 25 subsection 1, I will have to apply for registration. I will have to make an application for registration because I am liable for registration. Why am I liable for registration? Because my turnover has crossed the limit for registration. Now I will have to make an application for registration within 30 days from this date, within 30 days from 20th of May, within 30 days from 20th of May. If I apply for registration within this particular period of time, then it will be said that I have complied with the provisions of Section 25. I have complied with the provisions of Section 25. Now, there are other types of people also under GST. A person called as casual taxable person or non-resident taxable person. Now, if you are a casual taxable person or if you are a non-resident taxable person, see, normally a person will have to apply for registration within 30 days of liable for registration. But if you are a casual taxable person or non-resident taxable person, then you will have to make application for registration, meaning you will have to apply for registration within 5 days prior to commencement of your business, meaning you will have to apply for registration 5 days before starting your business as a casual taxable person or non-resident taxable person. With regard to the second point, we will anyways see what are the detailed provisions given under Section 27. Now, the question which arises is, sir, Where should I apply for registration? As section 22 says, you will have to make an application for registration. You will have to apply for registration in the state from where you are making taxable supply. You will have to make an application for registration in the state where you are making taxable supply. Meaning, sir, if I am making taxable supply from 5 different states, if I am making taxable supplies from 5 different states, am I liable to take a registration in all those 5 different states? Answer is yes. If you are making taxable supplies from 5 different states, you will have to make an application for registration in all these 5 different states. Sir, what if out of these 5 states I am making taxable supply in 4 states and 1 state I am making only exempt supply, and one of the states I am making only exempt supply? In that case, you will have to apply for registration in the 4 states from where you are making taxable supplies, and that 1 state where you are making only exempt supply. Please note, only exempt supply means there should not be even a single rupee of taxable supplies which is made by you. So if you are making only exempt supply from 1 state, then a registration is not required in that particular state from where you are making only exempt supplies. Sir, what if, say for example, I am doing business in the state of Karnataka. I am doing business in the state of Karnataka. In Bangalore, I am making taxable supplies. Say in Mysore, I am making exempt supply. Sir, my question is, in Bangalore, I am making only taxable supplies. In Mysore, I am making only exempt supply. In this case, sir, tell me whether I will have to take 2 separate registration, or can I take registration for Bangalore unit and can I avoid the registration for Mysore unit? Answer is no. In this case, because it is a single state, you will have to take a registration. Because it is a single state or 1 state wherein you are making both taxable and exempt supplies, the registration under GST is state wise, not city wise. It is state wise. So you will have to take a registration compulsorily. Sir, my next question which is to you is, say in Karnataka only, I have place of business in 4 different cities. Say Bangalore, Mysore, Belgaum and Udupi. Say I have my place of business in these 4 different cities, and in all these 4 different cities I am making taxable supplies only. And in all these 4 different cities, which is in the state of Karnataka, I am making taxable supplies only. Now tell me, sir, should I take separate registration? Or can I take only 1 registration? The law says you can take single registration. Law says what? You can take single registration for all the different types of supply which you are making in a state. From all the different types of supply which you are making in a particular state, you can take only 1 registration. That will be sufficient. Law is telling don't take separate registration. But however, if you want separate registration, for all these different units, you can take separate registration. The law is giving leniency for you to take separate registration for multiple place of business. If you have multiple place of business, you can take separate registration for these multiple places of business. See, I'll repeat point number 1. Single registration for entire state is valid. It is okay if you have 10 different places of business, also 10 different locations from where you are doing business, also 1 registration will be sufficient. But what if I want separate registration for each of these businesses? You can definitely take separate registration for each of these businesses. And sir, what if I am making a taxable supplies in 1 state and exempt supply in another state? In such cases, should I take registration in both the states? Registration will be required only in the state where you are making taxable supplies, unless until you are liable for a compulsory registration in the other state. Then, sir, is the registration of 1 state valid in another state also? Answer is no. Registration will have to be taken by you in each and every state separately. You will have to take the registration under GST in each and every state separately. Now, subsection 2 is telling this point. What is subsection 2 telling? A person who is seeking registration shall be granted single registration in the state or union territory. If you are a person who is wanting registration, who is applied for registration, you will be given single registration. However, provided that if the person is having multiple places of business, if the person is having what, multiple places of business, then he may be granted a separate registration for each of such place of business. He may be granted in the sense what, sir, means if you apply separate registration for all these different places of business, you can definitely get a separate registration. Meaning what, sir? Say for example, Mr. Dilip is having a business in the name of Priya Saris, and this business is in the state of Bangalore, in the state of Karnataka, in the city of Bangalore only. In the Bangalore city, I have, say, totally 4 different branches. In the Bangalore city, I have 4 different branches. One is in Jayanagar, one is in MG Road, one is in Indiranagar, and one is in, say, Koramangala. Okay, so in the city of Bangalore, I have same business. What business? Sari business at 5 different locations: Jayanagar, MG Road, Indiranagar, and Koramangala. Now, Jayanagar business, I am taking care of it. Meaning, please note, the owner of all these different business, the owner of all these different business is Dilip only. The owner of all this business is Dilip only. But the management in Jayanagar is taken care by Dilip. The management in, say, MG Road is taken care by Priya. The management in Indiranagar is taken care by Ghanshyam. The management in Koramangala is taken care by Mansukh. Okay, so there are 4 different people who are managing this business at separate location. Please note, the owner of all this different is only one. I am while filing income tax return, there will be only one income tax return filed in the name of Mr. Dilip by adding income from business in the name of Dilip. But however, these business are managed by 4 different persons. These business are managed by 4 different persons. Now the question which is coming to my mind is, sir, whether I can take separate registration for each of these different locations. Whether I can take separate registration for each of these different locations. The answer is yes. Please note, even though the owner is same, because you have multiple places of business, you can take separate registration. Sir, can I take only one registration and treat the other units as my branch? Yes, definitely. You can take a single registration for Jayanagar, which is the main office, and you can add the other offices of MG Road, Koramangala, Indiranagar as additional place of business. These other places which is there, you can treat it as additional places of business. You can treat it as your additional place of business. I hope this point is clear to you all. Normally one single registration for entire state will be sufficient, but if you have multiple places of business, then you can take separate registration. Now, sir, one more question I have. What is your question? Sir, I am doing my business in the state of Karnataka in Bangalore city, sir. Okay. Now, sir, I have a place of business, say normal, say Jayanagar, which is a normal location, and I also have a place of business in, say, Electronic City, SEZ area. I also have a separate place of business at an SEZ location. In the same state, I have a place of business in non-SEZ location, and I also have a place of business in an SEZ location. Now tell me, sir, whether I should, whether a single registration will be sufficient. Whether a single registration will be sufficient. The answer over here is no. Meaning, you will have to take separate registration is required. In this case, what, sir? In this case, separate registration will be required for the place of business which is there in normal location, and for the other place of business which is in SEZ. Now, sir, what if I have, say, in normal location I have 3 different branches and I have 1 branch in SEZ location? In that cases, you can take only 1 registration for all this place of business which you have in normal location, and you will have to take a separate registration for the SEZ location. You will have to take a separate registration for the place of business which is in your SEZ location, This point is given over here. What is this point talking about, sir? SEZ unit shall for, okay, you will have to apply for a separate registration if you have an unit under SEZ location. You will have to apply for separate registration if you have an unit at SEZ location. Now sir, my next question is, I am a person who is not liable for registration. I am a person who is not at all liable for registration. I have just started the business. On 1st April 2020, I started my business. Now, can I still apply for registration even though I am not liable for registration? Answer is yes. Say on 10th April, I am applying for registration. Why are you applying for registration? Sir, voluntarily I want to apply for registration. Why voluntarily a person will like to apply for registration? See, one of the advantage of taking registration is you can take input tax credit. You will be able to take input tax credit on all your inward supply. So this Mr. A is voluntarily taking registration even though he is not liable for registration. Can he apply for this voluntary registration? Answer is yes. A person can apply for registration voluntarily even if he is not liable for registration. Even if he is not liable for registration, he can voluntarily apply for registration. See, what happens is people may voluntarily apply for registration because say you are dealing with some company and that company says that I will make purchases only from a registered dealer, or that company says I will make supply only to a registered dealer. So if you want to make purchases or if you want to make sale, you should be registered. Or you are under inverted tax structure, meaning your inward supply are taxed at higher rate when compared to your outward supply. Your inward supply is taxed at 28%, outward supply is taxed at 5% only. In this case also there is a difference of 23% which you can claim refund. When will you able to claim refund? If you are registered, only then you can claim refund. There are reasons why a person will voluntarily. There are many other reasons which you can give, but these reasons are not specified in the law. Okay, none of the reasons is specified in the law. So if a person wants to apply for registration voluntarily, can he apply? Definitely he can make an application for registration voluntarily even if he is not liable for registration. Now the next question which comes is, sir, what will be my effective date of registration? What will be my effective date of registration? Now we saw two scenarios for applying for registration. One is the person who is liable for registration and the other person who is taking voluntary registration. Now what we are seeing is, what will be the effective date of registration? What will be the date from which my registration will be effective from? My registration will be effective from. Now point number one, you are a person who is liable for registration. I am a person who is liable for registration under section 22 or under section 24. Now section 25 subsection 1 says what? You should apply within 30 days. I am a person who is liable for registration and within 30 days I applied for registration. Then what will be your place effective date of registration? I applied for registration after 30 days. Now if you are a person who is doing business and who is liable for registration and applied for registration within 30 days, for you the effective date of registration will be the date of liable for registration. For you the effective date of registration will be the date on which you were liable for taking registration. Sir, what if I apply for registration after 30 days? Then for you the effective date of registration will be the date of grant of registration, the date on which the registration is granted to you. And sir, what in case of voluntary registration? What if I apply for registration voluntarily? Even in that case, the date, effective date of registration for you will be the date of grant of registration. The date on which the registration is granted to you, that will be the date from which your registration will be effective from. That will be the date from which so this is given over here separately. So effective date of registration, if you are a person who is liable for registration, applied for registration within 30 days, effective date of registration will be the date on which you are liable for registration. If I apply after 30 days, then the date of issue of registration certificate. If I apply for voluntary registration, the date of issue of registration certificate. Meaning what, sir? Meaning, say for example, I started my business on 1/4/2020. I was liable for registration on 25. I was liable for registration. I applied for registration. Please note what is happening over here. I applied for registration on say 26/5. I applied for registration on 26/5 and the registration was granted to me. The registration was granted to me on 10th of June the registration was granted to me. In this case, what will be the effective date of registration? The date on which I was liable for registration. Why? Because I applied for registration within 30 days. Because I applied for registration within 30 days. Point number 2. I started my business on 1/4/2020. I was liable for registration on 25. I applied for registration. I applied for registration on 26/6. I applied for registration on 26/6. In this case, have I applied and the registration was granted to me on say 10th July. In this case, have I applied within 30 days? No sir, you have not applied the registration within 30 days. So the date of the effective date of registration will be the date of grant of registration certificate. Case number 3. I started my business on 1/4/2020. On 10/4, I voluntarily applied for registration. The registration was granted to me on 15/4. The registration was granted to me on 15/4. The effective date of registration will be 15/4. The effective date of registration will be 15/4. That is the date of grant of registration certificate. Next point. Section 25 subsection 3. Section 25 subsection 4. 3 talks about voluntary registration. Section 25 subsection 4 and subsection 5 talks about deemed distinct person, which we have already discussed in the topic called as supply, but anyways we'll discuss again. What is this section 25 and section 25 subsection 4 and section 25 subsection 5 telling? Section 25 subsection 4 is telling if a person has obtained more than one registration in a state or an union territory, if a person has obtained more than one registration in a state or an union territory, or more than one state or more than one union territory, each such registration will be treated as distinct person. Each such registration will be treated as different person. What is section 25 subsection 4 telling? If a person has obtained more than one registration in a state or union territory, or more than one state or more than one union territory, then each such registration will be treated as deemed distinct person. They will be treated as distinct person. What do you mean by this, sir? This we can understand with this example which we had taken over here. Okay, I'll write it again. Say I am doing business in the name of Priya Sarees. I am using Mr. Dilip Span. In Bangalore, I am doing the business in the name of Priya Sarees at 4 different locations: Jayanagar, MG Road, Indiranagar and Koramangala, which is managed by Dilip, Priya, Mansukh and Ghanshyam. Now, at each and every location, I have taken separate registration. Can I take separate registration? Yes, the law is allowing you to take separate registration if you have multiple places of business. So I have taken a separate registration. I have taken separate registration for each of these business. Now what will happen is, if Priya Sarees Jayanagar is transferring goods to Priya Sarees MG Road, if Priya Sarees Jayanagar is transferring goods to Priya Sarees MG Road, it will be treated as supply. It will be treated as supply. It will be treated as sale made by Jayanagar to MG Road. It will be treated as sale made by Jayanagar to MG Road. Why, sir? Because they are registered separately. Now, sir, what if they were not registered separately? Meaning what, sir? Meaning Priya Sarees Bangalore has only one registration. In such case, when Jayanagar is making a transfer to MG Road, when Jayanagar branch of Priya Sarees is making a transfer to MG Road, it will not be treated as supply. If it is making a transfer of sarees from Jayanagar to MG Road without consideration, it will not be treated as supply. But if it is if it has taken separate registration, it is treated as distinct person. Because it is a distinct person, this particular activity will be treated as supply. Then point number 2, section 25. So I'll repeat, section 25 subsection 4 is telling what? If a person has obtained more than one registration, then each such registration will be treated as distinct person. So what does it mean? If there are more than one registration, so here the distinctivity or the differentiation is done based on the registration which you have obtained. If you have obtained more than one registration, each of that registration will be different person. Then section 25 subsection 5 says, if a person has obtained registration for an establishment, if a person has obtained a registration for an establishment in a state or union territory and he also has another establishment in another state or union territory, then each such establishment shall be treated as deemed distinct person. What this point is telling is, if Dilip has Priya Sarees in Bangalore which is registered, or Dilip has Priya Sarees in Karnataka which is registered, and he also has a branch of Priya Sarees in Maharashtra, say Mumbai, which is registered or not registered, it does not matter. Whether it is registered or not registered, it does not matter. Now what is happening? He has an establishment in the state of Karnataka, he has an establishment in the state of Maharashtra. These two establishment, though the owner is Mr. Dilip, they will be treated as distinct person. They will be treated as separate person. Now we'll go through the other points which is there in the section. Next, section 25 subsection 6. What is it talking about, sir? Section 25 subsection 6 says, if you want to take a registration under GST, section 25 subsection 6 is telling what, sir? If you want to take a registration under GST, PAN is compulsory. You should have a PAN, permanent account number, which is issued by income tax, CBDT. Whatever PAN is issued by income tax department, that PAN should be available for taking registration under GST. So one of the mandatory document for taking registration under GST is what, sir? PAN. PAN is mandatory document. Sir, oh sir, what if I am taking registration as a TDS or TCS person? What if I am taking a registration because I am liable to deduct tax under section 51? In that case, you will not be having PAN, you will be having something called as TAN, tax deduction account number. Tax deduction account number, that is required to be given by you. Sir, my next question is, what if I am a non-resident taxable person? Sir, one of the provisions says that non-resident person is also liable for registration under GST. What if I am non-resident taxable person? I will not be having PAN of India. No, sir. In that case, what should I do? In case of non-resident taxable person, section 25 subsection 7 says, in case of non-resident taxable person, PAN is not required, but there are few other documents which is specified. Those other documents are required for taking registration. In case of what? If you are a non-resident taxable person, PAN is not required for your registration. There are few other documents. Which are these documents, sir? Passport, the valid passport of that non-resident taxable person is required. Then, if you are registered in your country under any tax system, say if you have any registration certificate, say whether it is a company registration certificate, whether any tax identification number of your country, then that will be required. Point number 1, your valid self-assisted valid passport, then tax identification number of your country, then plus you will have to appoint an authorized representative. You will have to do what? You will have to appoint a person in India as your authorized representative. You will have to appoint a person in India as your authorized representative who will be representing you for all the subject matter in India, and that person whom you are appointing as your authorized representative in India should be a resident of India. He should be what, sir? He should be a resident of India, and he should be a registered resident of India, and he should be having a valid PAN. He should be having what, sir? He should be having a valid PAN. He should be having what, sir? He should be having valid PAN. These are the other documents which is required by non-resident taxable person for obtaining registration under GST. Then, now say for example, I am a person who is liable for registration, but I don't apply for registration. Just like that, I don't want to apply for registration. What will happen? If you are a person who is liable for registration and you don't apply for registration, the department, the proper officer may suo motu apply for registration. by his own motion he will give you a registration number. He may give suo motu registration to you. So a person who is liable for registration does not apply for registration. The proper official shall proceed and register such person. The proper officer shall register that person who is not applying for registration. Then if you are an UNO, that is United Nations Organization, or you are a multilateral financial corporation, etc., for you, instead of getting GSTN, they will give you something called as UIN. Meaning, normally if you are a person who is registered under GST, you will be given something called as GSTN, Goods and Service Tax Identification Number. You will be given something called as what, sir? Goods and Services Tax Identification Number. But if you are an United Nations organization, if you are a multilateral financial corporation, you will not be given an GSTN. You will be given something called as unique identification number. You will be given something called as unique identification number. Then at last, all this registration which you are applying, it is not that as soon as you apply it will be granted to you. The application which is given by you, it will either be the registration will be granted or it will be rejected after due verification is done by the proper officer. After due verification is done about your application by the proper officer. Now we will see what is the procedure specified for registration. Now what is this is the normal procedure which you have to follow for applying for registration. This procedure is applicable for a normal taxable person, that is normal registered person, a composition taxable person, then casual taxable person, or if you are obtaining registration voluntarily, then you will have to follow this procedure. For people like TDS, TCS, non-resident taxable person, there are some special provision. For applying for registration. Now we saw that I should apply for registration if I am liable for registration. How should I apply? You should apply it by going to a portal called as gst.gov.in. This is the GST portal. You will have to go to the common portal, and over there you will have to check the registration tab. You will have to make an application for registration. What is the application for registration form called as, sir? It is called as form GST REG01. The form for making an application, we'll discuss this separately, then we'll see what is the procedure given over there. The form for applying for registration is called as what, sir? GST REG01. GST REG01. Now this form which is there, it has two parts. This form, application form, has two parts, part A and part B. This application form has two parts, part A and part B. Part A deals with your basic details. Part A talks about your basic detail. It will ask you, what are you? Who am I? Are you a taxpayer? Are you a tax deductor? Are you a tax collector? Are you a non-resident taxable person? Then it will ask for you the state in which you are you want to take a registration. Which state do you want to take a registration? In that state, which district do you want to take registration? Then what is your PAN number and what is your name as per PAN? What is your PAN number? What is the name as per PAN? Then give your email ID and mobile number. You should give your email ID and mobile number. Once you give all this detail, there will be a captcha code which you will have to enter. Once you enter this detail, a background verification will happen. Meaning the GST department will verify your PAN details with the income tax department. Whatever PAN you have given, whether that PAN is active and whether the name which is given against your PAN is also correct. So once this background verification is done, the OTP will be sent to your email ID and mobile number. The department will send an OTP to your email ID and mobile number. Once this OTP is sent, once you will have to fill the OTP definitely. Once this OTP is filled, your part A of GST REG01, your part A of registration application is submitted. Your part A is submitted. You will get something called as TRN. You will get something called as what, sir? You will get something called as TRN. You will get something called as temporary reference number. You will get something called as what? Temporary reference number. By using this temporary reference number, you will have to use this temporary, by using this temporary reference number. By using this temporary reference number, you will have to fill your part B of registration application. So once you get this temporary reference number, this temporary reference number will be valid for 15 days, meaning you will have 15 days time to fill your part B of registration application. You will have 15 days time to fill your part B of registration application. If you see, in part A, you have not told what is the name of business, what is the type of business which you want to do, where, what is the actual location of your place of business, who is the owner of business. No such details is given by you. All those details will be given in this part B. In this part B of registration application, you will give the details of the name of the name of the business, which jurisdiction do you fall in, which is the state jurisdiction where your business is located, which is the central jurisdiction where your business is located, what is the nature of your business, whether it is a sole proprietor, whether it is a partnership, whether it is a private limited company, whether it is a public company, etc., or a trust or association. Then you will have to give the details of owners or director. You will have to give who is the owner of this company, if it is a sole proprietor, who are the partners of this company, if it is a LLP or partnership firm, who is the directors of this company. Then you will have to give the details of authorized signatory, if you want to give any authorized signatory, meaning you will have to give the details of authorized signatory who will be representing your company to the GST department, who will be signing all the certificates or all the returns of under this registration. So he will be the authorized signatory. Then you will have to give the details of your principal place of business, which is your main place of business, which is your principal place of business. You will have to give the details, write the entire address, then upload a rental agreement, electricity bill, etc. Then if you have any additional place of business, meaning if you have any branch office, you will have to give details of that branch office also. You will have to give the details of that additional place of business also. Then after that, you will have to give the list of the goods or services which you are dealing in. You should just give 5 goods, top 5 goods or services which you are dealing in, top 5 goods or services in which you are dealing in. And once all these details are given, if you have any existing registration, give the details, say PT, PF, etc. You have that existing registration, give the registration number. Once this is given, you will have to file this application. You will have to file this application. In case you are an company or an LLP, in case what, sir, if you are a company or an LLP, the authentication or authorization will be by using digital signature. You will have to use the digital signature for authorizing or filing, authenticating this particular application. But if in case you are a partnership firm, in case you are an association, in case you are a sole proprietor, then the authentication can either be done through digital signature or through OTP, Aadhaar based OTP also you can opt for filing this application. Now, once this application is filed, now what has happened? GST REG 01, this application has been filed. You will receive an acknowledgement number. You will receive an ARN, acknowledgement reference number. This acknowledgement reference number is given to you in GST REG 02. You will be given an acknowledgement number in GST REG 02. Once this acknowledgement number is given to you, your side of application is over. Your part of work in this registration process is over. Now the work of department starts. Now the application which is sent by you will be verified by the department. Whatever application you have sent will be verified by the department. Now in this, what can happen on department verification? The proper officer can either approve or he can ask for clarification. Now the proper officer has 3 working days time. The proper officer has 3 working days time. Within 3 working days, he should either approve your registration if he feels that, yeah, all the documents which is uploaded by you, all the details which is uploaded by you is correct, is genuine. He will approve your registration, and once the registration is approved, then you will be granted your registration certificate. GST REG 06 will be given to you. Sir, what if officer is not satisfied with the details submitted by you. If the officer is not satisfied, he'll ask for clarification. What is the thing he's not satisfied with? You have given the PAN details, say director's PAN you have given director's Aadhaar number. Now he can ask you to send the copy of that PAN and Aadhaar. Or you have given the address, you have uploaded the rental agreement. The officer may ask you to also upload electricity bill. The officer may ask you to also upload property tax payment receipt. Okay, so you can ask any of the clarification, whatever clarification he needs, he can ask such clarification. Now once this clarification is asked, please note this clarification also should be done within 3 days, meaning officer has only 3 days either to approve or ask for clarification. So once he asks for this clarification, he will send a notice for clarification. This notice is sent in GST Reg 03. Once he asks for clarification, now you have, the person who has applied, you have 7 working days time to reply. You have 7 working days time to reply for this clarification. Whatever the clarification is sought by the proper officer, you will have to make a reply to that clarification. This reply is required to be made by you in GST Reg 04. There is an application form which is again online only. That is only what will get opened once this clarification notice has come to you. You will have to clarify whatever the officer is asking within 7 working days. Within 7 working days, the clarification will have to be given by you. The applicant will have to give the clarification within 7 working days. Now, once the clarification is submitted by you, the applicant, officer has, proper officer, here applicant, I'll write it as applicant. Proper officer has 7 working days of time to either approve your registration, say if he is satisfied with your clarification or not satisfied with your clarification. Now whatever clarification is submitted by you, the officer can either be satisfied with it, yeah, whatever is asked by me has been answered by this applicant properly. So if he is satisfied, then he will give you the registration certificate. Within 7 working days, he will give you the registration certificate. Sir, what if he is not satisfied? He will reject your application. If he is satisfied, he will approve your application and give you a registration certificate. If he is not satisfied, then he will reject your application and give the reasons of rejection in form GST Reg 05. He will give the reasons for rejecting your application. He will give the reason for rejecting your application. So this is the entire procedure which is required to be followed by you for making an application for registration. Sir, one question which is coming to my mind is, what if he does not approve or ask for clarification within 3 working days or within the 7 working days? Once he asks for clarification within 7 working days, if he does not reply within 3 days or within 7 days, as the case may be, it will be deemed approval. Your application will be deemed to have been approved. It will be deemed that your application has been approved. Now we'll see what is given over here, the stages. There are 2 stages, stage 1 and stage 2. Stage 1 steps which you are supposed to follow, that you will have to make an application in Reg 01. Once you make an application, first you will have to fill part A of your registration application, and OTP will be sent to your email ID and mobile number. Once this OTP verification is done, you will get temporary reference number. Using this temporary reference number, you will have to fill application, that is part B of GST Reg 01 on the common portal. Once you submit this part B, once you fill your application, submit the part B, you will get something called as acknowledgement reference number or ARN, which is given in GST Reg 02. Then the application will be forwarded to the proper officer. He should do the verification. Now the proper officer has 3 working days time either to approve or ask for clarification. Within 3 working days, he will approve or ask for clarification. Say if he approves, then you will be given GST Reg 06. If the application is not in order, he will seek clarification in GST Reg 03. He'll send a notice within 3 working days, and you will have to reply for the clarification within 7 working days. and once your reply is given within 7 working days, he can either issue the registration certificate or reject your application in GST REG 05. Deemed registration: if the officer fails to take action within 3 days or 7 days, then it will be deemed that the registration is granted to you. It will be deemed that the registration is granted to you. This is all about section 25, procedure for registration. This is all about section 25, procedure for registration. Next is section 26. Section 26 is nothing, very small section. Section 26 talks about deemed registration. Now under GST, now we have different types of taxes: CGST, UTGST, IGST, SGST, etc. There are different types of taxes. So the question which is coming to my mind is whether I should apply for registration all this tax wise. Whether I should apply for registration all this tax wise. The answer is no. The registration is not required under GST tax wise. The registration under GST is state wise. You will have to apply for registration in a particular state and not the different tax wise. Okay, so what this particular point is telling is, if you have taken a registration under CGST Act, then it is deemed that a registration is given to you under SGST Act or UTGST Act or IGST Act. If you have taken a registration under any SGST or state act, then it will be deemed that it is given under CGST Act also. Similarly, if you have taken registration under UTGST Act, it is deemed that you have been granted a registration under CGST Act. Now, last section, section 27, which deals with last section on this particular video. Section 27 deals with the special provision which is applicable to a casual taxable person or non-resident taxable person. The special provision which are applicable to whom, sir? The special provision which are applicable to a casual taxable person or non-resident taxable person. So if you are a casual taxable person or a non-resident taxable person, you will have to follow this particular procedure for taking registration. If you are what? If you are a casual taxable person or a non-resident taxable person, this is the procedure which is required to be followed by you. Now, what do you mean by casual taxable person, sir? First thing, what do you mean by the meaning of casual taxable person? Casual taxable person means what? Casual taxable person is a person who is doing business occasionally, at a place where he does not have, in a state or union territory where he does not have fixed establishment, or at a place other than his usual place of business. Meaning what? Say for example, casual taxable person. I'll just explain this example with a small example. Say Priya Sarees is doing business in the state of Karnataka, that is Bangalore. Priya Sarees has its place of business in Bangalore. Now there is an exhibition which is going to be held in Mumbai. There is a sari exhibition cum sale. There is a sari exhibition cum sale which is going to happen in the state of Maharashtra, that is Mumbai. It is happening in Mumbai. Now this exhibition is going to happen for 15 days. So what Priya Sarees is thinking is, let me also go participate in this exhibition so that my sales will also increase and my sari also will be displayed. So Priya Sarees is going to this exhibition. It is going to this exhibition cum sale. Now at that location, obviously because it is exhibition cum sale, sarees also will be sold. Whatever sarees is taken by Priya Sarees, it will also be sold. Now Priya Sarees will be called as casual taxable person in the state of Maharashtra. Priya Sarees will be called as casual taxable person in the state of Maharashtra. Why, sir? Because she is doing the business activity in the state where she does not have place of business. She is doing business activity, point number one, occasionally. Point number one, she should do the business activity occasionally. It is not a permanent place of business for her. She is doing the business activity occasionally in the state where she does not have fixed establishment, where she does not have a place of business. She is doing business activity at a place where she does not have any fixed establishment, in the state or union territory where she does not have fixed establishment. In such cases, she is called as casual taxable person. She is called as casual taxable person. Similar to it, there is something else called as non-resident taxable person. Non-resident taxable person. What happens in case of non-resident taxable person? In case of non-resident taxable person, a person is going to come from outside India to India. A person is going to come from outside India to India. He will do business activity in India where he does not have fixed place of business or where he does not have any place of residence. He does not have fixed place of business or place of residence. Now, there is one difference between casual taxable person and non-resident taxable person. See, the actual meaning, if you go, it is same, meaning they are both coming from a place which is from a place and doing business in a place where they do not have any place of business. Now, the literal meaning is same, but there is one small difference between both of them. In case of a casual taxable person, in case you go do business activity in a place other than your usual place of business, in case of a casual taxable person, the business which you are doing in that other state is same as your, it should be same as your actual business. Meaning, I am doing the business of saris in the state of Karnataka. I go to an exhibition in the state of Mumbai. I cannot sell shirts over there. If I want to be called as a casual taxable person, I should deal in saris only. But however, this condition is not applicable in case of non-resident taxable person. A non-resident taxable person can come from his particular country and do business in our country of whatever nature he wants. Meaning, in his country maybe he is selling saris, but in India he may come and sell, say, paintings. In India he can come and sell paintings. Meaning, for a casual taxable person, the business activity which he is going to do in that occasionally which he is going to do in that particular state should be in line with the actual business which he is doing in the place where he is actually registered. But in case of non-resident taxable person, there is no such condition. He may be doing a business of sari in this other country, and India he can sell paintings. But in case of casual taxable person, if you are a person from within India and you already have a registered place of business or a place of business in India, and you do business occasionally at some other place, then you will have to do the same kind of business. You will have to do the same kind of business. Now, okay sir, we understood what do you mean by casual taxable person and non-resident taxable person. Now tell us, sir, what are the special provisions? What are the special provisions? Special provisions applicable for casual taxable person and non-resident taxable person. Special provisions which are applicable to them are: point number 1, they should apply for registration 5 days prior to liable. Meaning, they will have to make an application for registration. They will have to make an application for registration 5 days before, 5 days prior to commencement of business. Now, say for example, there is an exhibition, the Priya Saris example will take. Say there is an exhibition in Mumbai starting from 15th of July. There is an exhibition in Mumbai starting from 15th of July, and Priya Saris wants to take part in that exhibition. Now, Priya Sari will have to take, see, please note, from 15th of July the exhibition is starting. As per the condition, when does she wants to apply for registration? 5 days prior to commencement of business. Now, assuming Priya Saris is going to commence the business on 15th only, she should make an application by today, that is 10th of July. She should make an application by 10th of July. Say she is going to start the business at this location on, say, 17th of July. She should make the application by 12th of July. If she is going to start it by 17th of July, make an application by 12th of July. Meaning, the application should be made as a casual taxable person or a non-resident taxable person 5 days prior to the commencement of business. 5 days prior to the commencement of business. Please note, it is not 5 days prior to commencement of that exhibition. It is 5 days prior to the commencement of your business. Point number 1. Point number 2, your application or your registration as a casual taxable person or non-resident taxable person will be valid for 90 days, or your registration will be valid for 90 days, or number of days applied for, whichever is earlier. Your registration will be valid either for 90 days or for number of days which you have applied for, whichever is less or whichever is earlier. Meaning what, sir? Meaning you can say you have made an application on say 10th. In the present case, we'll write it again. Say on 10/7 I am making a registration to take part in an exhibition which will be held on 15th of July. Now I have applied for registration for only 10 days. Assuming this exhibition is happening for 30 days, I have applied for registration. So till 14th of August this exhibition will be held. So I have taken registration only for 10 days. Now what will be my validity of registration? My validity of registration will be, my registration will be valid for 10 days. Why, sir? It is 10 days or 90 days, whichever is less or whichever is earlier, whichever is earlier. Or example number 1 was this. Example number 2. Exhibition is going to be happening for say 130 days. Exhibition is happening for how many days, sir? Exhibition is going to happen for 130 days. I have applied for registration for 120 days. At the time of making an application, I have applied the registration for 120 days. Now tell me what will be the validity of your registration? Sir, the validity of my registration will be either 120 days or 90 days, whichever is earlier. What will be your validity? It will be 90 days only. If you are applying for registration, for a period beyond 90 days, it will be valid only for 90 days. It will be valid for only for 90 days. Sir, then can't I ask for extension of my registration? Definitely. So point number 2 was what? Your validity of registration. Point number 3 is extension of validity. Can I extend the validity of my registration? Definitely you can extend the validity of your registration. You can extend the validity of your registration. You can extend it by further period of 90 days. Meaning maximum extension which you can seek, is 90 days. Sir, what if I seek an extension only for 30 days? Meaning law is telling you can maximum take extension for 30 more days. Now what if I take the extension only for 90 more days? I can extend. What if I take extension only for 30 days? Then your registration will be extended for 30 more days. Your registration will be extended for 30 more days. Say for example, in this example number 1, where I had taken registration only for 10 days and I take extension for 15 days more. I take an extension for 15 days more. So my extension will be valid either for 15 days or 90 days, whichever is less, that is 15 days. So my total validity of registration will be 25 days. See, normally you can take registration for 90 plus 90 days. 90 in the first case plus 90 as an extension. 90 in the first place and 90 as an extension. Now in the first case I have taken only for 10 days. In the second case I have taken only for 15 days. Can I further take extension? Can I further take extension? Answer is no. No further extension will be given to you. You take the registration now. If you want to extend it by further period, whatever period you want, but it should be less than 90 days or it should be equal to 90 days. After that extension, there will be no more extension, meaning extension can be sought by you only once. Sir, but if you see, sir, I can actually take registration for 180 days, but I have taken only for 25 days. That is your mistake. Law is not worried about that. In the second case, I want to take registration for 120 days. The exhibition is going to be held for 130 days and I want to take registration for 120 days. What will I have to do? Take a registration for 90 days, then extend it to 30 more days. Now, sir, I have taken a registration for 90 days. I have extended it by 30 days. Can I take further extension of 10 days? Answer is no. I have taken a registration for 90 days. Seek extension for sought an extension for 30 more days. Again, can I take extension? No. Again, can I take extension? No. You can take extension At the first place only you could have taken extension for 40 days. Second time extension will not be given to you. Second time extension will not be given to you. Again, at the time of extension also, the registration will be valid for number of days you have sought or 90 days, whichever is earlier. This is the second condition, third condition, sorry. Last condition is advance payment of tax. Meaning what, sir? If you are a casual taxable person, if you are a non-resident taxable person who is doing business occasionally where in a state or union territory where you don't have any place of business, then before commencement of business you will have to apply for registration. At the same time, before commencement of business you will have to pay tax. Before starting your business as a casual taxable person, you will have to make the payment of tax. Meaning what, sir? You will have to estimate your sales. Meaning by going to this exhibition, I may sell goods worth rupees 10 lakh. Okay, by going to this exhibition, I may sell goods worth rupees 10 lakhs. I will have to estimate that sale and I will have to make the payment of tax. I will have to make, assuming the 10% is the tax rate which is applicable, I will have to pay 1 lakh rupees as the tax. Now, tomorrow what may happen? At the end of exhibition, two things can happen. You had estimated sales of 10 lakhs, but your sales become 12 lakhs, or your sales become say 7 lakhs. Your sales is becoming more. You had estimated sales of what? 10 lakhs. You had paid, on your estimation, you had paid a tax of 1 lakh rupees. Now the sales is becoming 12 lakhs. There is extra 2 lakh sales which is made by you. So there is extra 20,000 which you are supposed to pay. Now you can make the payment. Now what if my sales is only 7 lakh rupees? You have paid tax on 3 lakhs extra, that is you have paid 30,000 extra. This 30,000 will be refunded to you. This 30,000 will be refunded to you. Now this is all about section 27, the special provision which is applicable for a casual taxable person or non-resident taxable person. I'll repeat the provision from this chart. Section 27, special provision related to casual taxable person or non-resident taxable person. A casual taxable person or non-resident taxable person shall apply for registration 5 days prior to the commencement of business. Please note, 5 days prior to the starting of business, not 5 days before the starting of exhibition. I may start, say exhibition may be started today, I may start my business after say from 12th, I may start my business after say 20th. Okay, that is not the criteria. 5 days before starting your business you should apply for registration. Then point number 2, registration is valid for number of days sought or 90 days. Number of days for which you are taking registration or for 90 days, whichever is earlier. Can I extend the validity? Answer is yes. You can extend your valid date for a further period of 90 days. You can extend the validity for a further period of 90 days, meaning maximum extension which will be given to you is 90 days. So should I take only for 90 days? No, you can take for 30 days, 45 days or any period lesser than 90 days. Then you will have to make, the next provision is you will have to make advance payment of tax. You will have to estimate your tax liability and you will have to make the advance payment of tax. Okay sir, I have, at the time of applying for registration, I have made the payment of tax. Now sir, I am extending my registration, sir. Should I make further payment of tax for that extended period? Answer is yes. For that extended period, estimate your liability and make the payment of tax for that extended period. Okay, so this is all about section 25, section 26 and section 27 of CGST Act, dealing with procedure for registration, deemed registration and special provision for casual taxable person and non-resident taxable person. I hope you liked it. Thank you.